Welcome to the ThinkData Podcast, and today's guest is Christopher Michalak. He is the Executive Chairman at Personify Health and former CEO of 𝐬𝐮𝐫𝐿se and Alight. We finally made this podcast happen, which I'm super excited about. He has a ton of experience leading healthcare and benefits tech companies, and is really seen by many as being at the forefront of using data to personalize care at scale. We're going to take a closer look and talk about mergers, transformation, and probably most importantly, how data is really powering the future employee health. Yeah, really looking forward to this. So for people who have not heard of you and Personify, can you kind of briefly summarize your background and who Personify are?
Absolutely. And Alex, thank you for having me. And it was difficult to schedule, but we nailed it. So I'm excited about our discussion today. So Personify specifically is in the health tech sector. We're a tech-enabled service and TPA, as well as a SaaS-based software for helping people manage the most difficult aspects of their healthcare. We're predominantly helping self-insured employers to do that with their employee base. And we're excited, in particular about how AI will continue to drive high engagement on the platforms in our solutions. So I've spent the last decade or more in the healthcare space, particularly in the health tech sector at both Alight, which is a tech-enabled service in the benefit enrollment space, as well as at 𝐬𝐿 and now at Personify. And it's been, just an absolutely fantastic run, always serving self-insured employers in those companies.
So talk about the actual product, and as an employee, how will this benefit me?
Yeah. Essentially, what Personify is doing in the marketplace is we're making a series of technologies and operational capabilities available to employers to help every member that's on an employer payroll manage their healthcare more effectively. I would describe us as a kind of healthcare intelligence platform that helps people make good decisions about their preventative care. How do I stay healthy if I'm already healthy? Their chronic care. How do I deal with chronic conditions that might be affecting me or affecting members of my family? Or their episodic care. I have a really significant issue that I need help navigating, really the complexities of it. I think we're in this really unique position to use both data and high touch services to help people to get smarter about the way they consume healthcare. And when they do that, that's great for an employer. Employers
Yeah.
need their people to be smart about the consumption of healthcare because it's both the dollars as well as the outcomes to them. Greater presenteeism, greater management of mental health issues, the things that might affect their productivity at work. And that's why I think, by the way, the employer's in a really unique position. They care not just about the cost of healthcare and the outcomes of healthcare, but how that affects the way people show up to work every day. And we think we're very uniquely positioned to help employers with some of those great challenges.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Well, how does it work in practice for the employers?
It is an integrated platform, but we offer it to employers in a modular way. So an
Okay.
employer might say, I need somebody to manage my health plan. And we're a
Yeah.
TPA. So we're a great third party administrator with an open set of networks that we can do with great flexibility. That might be the solution that they're looking for. They may be looking for a navigation and advocacy provider, somebody who can help direct people in their care pathways, whether it's for a really important episodic thing that they're facing, or to just help them find a higher quality, lower cost doctor. And then we're also a well-being platform and a digital therapeutic platform. And so we can do that for clients as well. The thing that's really unique about us
Interesting.
is we've knit all of those solutions together through a single interface. And
Mm.
we're using our technology skills and our depth as engineers to bring the right technology solution to bear across all of those solutions. So if you want to buy them all in an integrated fashion, and I think employers in the future will continue to buy in a more consolidated way. I think the complexity, and we can talk about complexity, we can talk about the proliferation of solutions in the space, but I think employers are going to increasingly buy in a consolidated fashion to help them manage the experience more effectively and to get better data out of the solutions that they put in front of their people.
You touched on really relevant there about kind of the AI and data piece of this. So I think you referenced about digital doppelgangers, and obviously looking at kind of building profiles on people and actually helping better engagement and better outcomes. How does that work in practice, and how important is kind of AI to all of this?
Yeah, we're taking in every day an enormous amount of data, and we're collecting data from a number of different sources. We get it from their participation in our platform. We get it from their claims data. We get it from other third-party applications that teach us something about individuals. And so we collect all that data, and it enables us to build a profile on somebody and to better understand what their needs might be based on demographics, based on claims data, et cetera. And then we use that data to uh, to drive or to power our engines that push data or push information to the individual to help them make better decisions. And so each and every day, if somebody's signing into our platform, they're getting a reminder or a nudge or an email or something that helps them to make a better decision about their healthcare moving
Mm.
forward. This is the next best action that you ought to be taking. And all of that is AI driven. All of that is deep data driven. So our data analytics capability, the AI engines that drive it, and our ability to drive multimodal communications to the individual member are critical in getting them to behave in the right way. And that's why I say we're a healthcare intelligence platform. We're helping people to have greater acumen in the decisions that they make through incentives, through communications, and through AI, if you will.
And I think you touched on a couple of interesting points there about people engaging with your platform. I think there's been some reluctance or nervousness around AI in health. I think people are worried about, hallucinations, the actual all of their data being held in a kind of secure fashion. How do you kind of educate those, whether it's the employers themselves, the TPAs, or your members? How do you educate them on responsible AI and making sure that they're comfortable that their data is effectively being processed through a third party?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, first and foremost, you have to have secure data.
Yeah.
And so we have secured our data. We feel comfortable that we have it, in our own box, and we, are using it for only our own purposes. So, I mean, first and foremost, that's critical. The second thing I would say about that is there's a fine line between something that is effective and helpful and something that feels like almost a little too familiar or too creepy to the individual member. And
Yeah.
so we're careful to kind of be on the fine line of that. We want to nudge people and we want to get their behavior to change while at the same time not seeming like we know more than we really should know about them. And so we kind of run that fine line. And by the way, our clients care deeply about how we execute. And so they kind of create boundaries and barriers for our doing anything that they wouldn't feel comfortable with respect to their employees. And so
Yeah.
I think lots of decisions to be made around that as the future unfolds. As we
Yeah.
gather more data and AI becomes more effective, it's going to be interesting. Our prediction, by the way, is that people are going to increasingly want to interact with digital assistants rather than actual assistants.
Mm.
Some people will prefer that model. And so we want to be ready as the way people utilize technology and the way they interact with that with technology. We want to be ready to actually serve them however they show up in the journey.
I was really fortunate this week actually to speak to someone similar to yourself working for a health tech company who said the same thing. We're beginning to see the shift of more engagement with agentic AI and more engagement with non-humans. Why do you think that is? Do you think, because obviously personally speaking, I'm probably at that age in my life where I understand it, but if I would say to my parents, my mother-in-law, and say, "Oh, you're going to go speak to a bot," they're probably like, "Oh," and you've got to speak about your health. They're like, "Oh, okay, I'm not sure about that." Why do you think we're beginning to see that shift? Do you think it's just better education? Do you think it's the fact they're 24/7, 365 days a year, that they're available and they can get answers more quickly?
Yeah, I think it's an efficiency and effectiveness,
Yeah.
thing for people. I find when I interact with something that I know is, driven by AI, sometimes I'm in that mood. That's a topic that I'm comfortable doing through
Mm.
that kind of a mechanism. Other times I'm not. If I feel like I have a complex issue, then I want to, zero out of that as quickly
Yeah.
as I can to go get to an agent. But if it's a simple, straightforward process and I'm being taken through that process, that I want to do in the most efficient and effective manner that I possibly can. I think people are having more and more of those experiences, both in healthcare and outside of healthcare. And as they do, it will build up kind of their experience in that regard, and
Yeah.
their comfort level will go up. And I think that's going to be exponential because we're seeing so much of those kinds of capabilities and those kinds of agents. And I think people's experience is just going to continue to evolve based on that set of capabilities.
Yeah, I think you're really right. I think it's that perpetual motion. It's that positive reinforcement from, oh, you spoke to, and then the people
Yeah.
naturally will become more engaged with it. And actually, health, I from personally speaking, have seen and heard probably the highest rate of adoption of agentic AI, and because people. They want answers more quickly, don't they? If you think back to the day where people would Google their symptoms,
Yeah.
ChatGPT obviously it might not give you the right answers, but there's still accessible points of contact you can speak to and get those answers more quickly, which I think is only going to help people's confidence if there's a health issue.
Absolutely right. And by the way, you mentioned clinical. I think where we need to be thoughtful and where we need to move a little slower is
Mm,
on the clinical side.
yeah,
There's
agreed.
there's tons of healthcare work that has to get done that is preclinical or low risk. Those are the things that I see being enabled very quickly. Like, for example, talking to a coach about not a deep clinical topic. I see that happening more and more. Tell me
Mhm.
more about my condition. Tell me what I ought to be doing or thinking about as it relates to that condition. But as we get into deeper and deeper clinical capabilities, I think that's where we need to be thoughtful and careful and, be putting agents alongside putting actual agents alongside the technology
Yeah.
to make sure we're advising in the right way. And so we're seeing that combination as a powerful way to serve people more effectively.
It's quite unique for me to have someone on who's running such a large organization. I'm fortunate enough to speak to a lot of founders of very early stage companies, but a lot of people listening here, there's so many startups spinning up all the time into AI health and wellness. And for you, you're tackling it. You've got a huge business, over 3,000 people work for you or under you. You've got a wide portfolio. So for people listening here, how do you balance the kind of the need to innovate and drive adoption of new technologies, and also making sure everyone in the organization under you are on the same path? Because I'm guessing that for you must be a quite unique challenge, especially post merger and rebrand.
Absolutely right. I kind of always start with strategy and culture. As a CEO, I think I'm responsible for the culture of the organization and the strategy of the organization. Those are the two primary things that I want to spend most of my time on. And so if I get the strategy right, if I understand where we're going as an organization, and I'm directing the company towards that vision in the right way, that gives me a storyline to build the culture around. And I think
Mm,
strategy and culture, some people would say strategy is culture. I would say culture is critical, and you've
yeah.
got to get the strategy right. You've got to get people on board with where you're going and the vision, and they've got to be working at a place that makes them feel great about what they're doing. At Personify, we've been super clear about our culture and our sense of purpose. In healthcare, we've said we want to be on the right side of healthcare all the time. We want to be serving members effectively. We want to be helping our employer clients control their costs and get better outcomes for their people. And that sense of purpose has really fired up our culture and our people. That combined with our vision of where we're going, we executed a very complex merger in November of 23,
Yeah.
and we've been putting the two organizations together. That execution is really important, and people need
Mm.
to, see, hey, we know where we're going, and we know how we're going to get there. And I think that's been important to our success over the last couple of years.
You're nothing without your people, are you? And if they're all bought into that vision and that strategy, then there's no surprises why you've had the successes in the continual growth. I'm interested to ask a question around how big a part or how big an influence is AI within that strategy. So the reason I asked the question is AI is changing every day and week. There's new innovations, there's new regulations, everything's coming up. If so, you think you saying that you've got the vision and we are getting there, but along that journey, we just need to be prepared for changes or additions or slight deviations from that path when we adopt new technologies, because AI is obviously changing every day. So I'm guessing your strategy has to adapt as well, right?
Absolutely right. Like, we're investing in call center strategies and
Yeah.
as an example. And in those investments, every investment we're making now, we're making with an eye towards AI.
Yeah.
So whether it's call center technology, we want to make sure that our AI strategy is enabled by any call center technology we invest in. I look at our claims platform. We're continuing to invest in claims platforms, and we're looking at new claims platforms for the future that will accelerate the impact AI has on our ability to process claims.
Mhm.
It's influencing every decision we make in terms of technology investment. Everyone that we're doing it with an eye towards how artificial intelligence can accelerate the work that we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
it's a new muscle. Like, I don't want to pretend like it's some, super evolved pattern recognition, but it's forcing us to think differently about every decision we make on the technology side.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I think for CEOs and people like yourself who are leading organizations, large organizations through that change, everyone needs to be appreciative and understanding of AI is not going anywhere, right? This is, we need to adopt it. And obviously, people talk about displacement, but I reframe it a different way. It's just opportunities are being created, which we might not necessarily realize now. So how do you control that messaging internally? Because there are negative ramifications of AI, but for you, is that more of a positive reinforcement that actually we're here to, because not only is your product AI driven, but I'm assuming internally those teams are becoming more efficient because of like the co-pilots of the world and they're just making you a better business.
Yeah, I'm a believer that growth begets growth. If
Yeah.
we are using artificial intelligence or other tools, it drives growth in the organization, which drives opportunity for people. And
Yeah.
so I think people fear AI replacing jobs. And I think what we'll really find, just like when we pushing jobs offshore enabled growth, growth enabled more job creation, both onshore and offshore.
Yeah.
I think AI is very similar. As we continue to evolve and grow, and as we use AI to get there, it will create new opportunities for people and new growth internally for our folks. And so
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. So will we have all of the same jobs that we have today? Tomorrow? No, we might not have all the same jobs, but we're going to have different ones. And those
Yeah.
different ones are going to be great opportunities for people to contribute in this, in an even more impactful way than they do today. And so I think, I'm staying on the message. We're a grow forward company. One of our core values is we grow forward. It means everybody in the organization needs to work on their own development. So we as a company continue to grow as we serve our clients.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm fortunate enough to recruit for AI companies. It's just been a wild ride, but then it obviously comes with that nervousness around what next.
Yeah. And by the way, it's fun to be around. Like, it's fun
Yeah.
to watch. It's exciting to be a part of a company that's on kind of the leading edge of how AI is going to be deployed within a healthcare environment. And I think our people get excited about that. I think when our clients get excited about it, our people get excited about it. So, like, I just see so much potential around what we're doing in that space. And again, like, I don't want to lose sight. Core mission is really to affect the healthcare of people,
Yep.
and if we're using AI to get people the better outcomes, if we're using AI to help them develop better habits, if we're pinging them in a way that makes a difference in the way their family consumes healthcare, like, to me, those are the positives. And when we see more of that, people get excited about that. Every one of our stakeholders likes that.
100%. Yeah, no, I think it's so true. And I think my final question for you, you kind of touched on it just there in terms of the future. Obviously, we're looking at employer-led benefits, powered, healthcare intelligence, wellness intelligence, which is super interesting. But how is Personify really going to stay ahead? Because I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of companies starting up. There's a lot of people launching this space. But how are you guys going to ensure you keep pushing forward and everyone's on that journey as well?
Yeah, I mean, part of that is investment, and that's investment in, I think, two areas: one into technology and two into people. And so I think if we continue to invest, and we'll put $75 million worth of R&D investment back into the company to continue to have a leadership position. We know to be a leader in the TPA business, the navigation advocacy business, the well-being, the digital therapeutic business, the businesses that are most important to us. To continue to be a leader, we need to double down in our investment, technologies and people, the expertise and forward-looking expertise
Mm,
in new people that we bring into the organization, as well as into new technologies that continue to push us forward. I think our goal and desire is to be the most technology-centric TPA and well-being provider in the space that's getting to the right clinical outcomes. And we feel like doubling down in our investment in technology and people will get us there.
Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk me through. I think there's a huge amount to take from that. People here should go and check you guys out. There's a huge amount of information on Personify's website. Obviously, when we go live, we'll make sure we tag you guys. And just taking a close look at your business, I think it's a fascinating business. So thanks so much for coming on, Chris. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, great conversation, Alex. Thanks for featuring us, and we look forward to continuing to lead in the space around well-being, NAV, and the TPA business. And we're just excited about our future. And I think you helped us highlight some of that. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's been my pleasure.